Good afternoon and welcome. This is Spectrum Television News coming to you live from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. I am Uyai Imam. Let's take a look at the headlines. Walking. FCT Minister Nyesom Wike declares work-free day in FCT for council polls. Chief of Defence Staff launches Operation Savannah Shield, warns terrorist in Kwara. In other news, Trump directs United States to prepare for release of files on aliens and UFO. We'll bring you the details of these stories and more in a moment. Who has approved the constitution of the board of the Nigerian Anti-Doping Agency, a major compliance milestone aimed at consolidating Nigeria's status as a clean sporting nation and meeting key requirements set by global regulators. Chairman of the National Sports Commission, NSC, Shehu Diko, disclosed this to journalists after briefing the president at the State House, Abuja, describing the approval as a decisive step following nearly 2 decades of legislative delay. According to him, although the anti-doping bill had lingered for about 20 years, President Tinubu signed it into law last year and has now given the green light for the board to be constituted, one of the critical conditions demanded by the World Anti-Doping Agency. Away from that, ahead of the Saturday, February 21st area council elections in the Federal Capital Territory, the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike has declared today a work-free day and announced a restriction of movement from 8 p.m. today to 6 p.m. on Saturday. Wike made the announcement in a special broadcast urging residents of the FCT to come out en masse to vote for candidates of their choice. This was disclosed in a statement signed by the Senior Special Assistant on Public Communications and Social Media to the Minister, Larry Olayinka. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission, Inec, says more than 1.58 million permanent voter cards have been collected across the Federal Capital Territory ahead of the council elections scheduled for Saturday, February 21st, 2026. The update was contained in a statement issued and signed by Inec's National Commissioner and Chairman of the Information and Voter Education Committee, Mohammed Kudo. According to the Commission, the PVC collection exercise recorded a high turnout, signaling strong voter readiness for the polls. The Commission disclosed that as of the close of collection on February 10, 2026, a total of 1.68 million voters were registered in the FCT. Out of this figure, 1.58 million PVCs have been collected, representing a 94.4% collection rate, while 93,290 cards remained uncollected. In a separate development, the Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned the trial of Abubakar Malami, former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, and his son Abdulaziz until February 27. The case filed by the Department of State Services, DSS, against Malami and son was adjourned by Justice Joyce Abdul-Malik following a public holiday declared by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike ahead of the area council's election scheduled for tomorrow. Recall that the DSS had on February the 3rd arraigned the ex-AGF and his son on a 5-count charge bordering on terrorism and illegal firearms possession. In the charge, Malami is also accused of refusing to prosecute suspected terrorism financiers, whose case files were handed to him while he served as the AGF and Minister of Justice. On security matters, the Armed Forces of Nigeria has launched Operation Savannah Shield to dismantle terrorist networks and kidnapping syndicates in Kwara and neighboring Niger State. The Chief of Defense Staff, Olufemi Oluyede, operationalized the Joint Task Force at the 22 Brigade Sombi Military Cantonment, Ilorin. Oluyede described the mission as a deliberate offensive to deny criminals freedom of action, warning that forested enclaves and ungoverned spaces hitherto exploited by terrorists will no longer serve as safe havens. He also said troops would conduct sustained clearance operations to protect lives, property and key agricultural zones. The defense chief also stressed enhanced interagency collaboration and urged community leaders and residents to provide credible intelligence, noting that security remains a shared responsibility. He further appointed the theater commander, Major General Yakubu Yahaya, to oversee operations in the joint area. Elsewhere, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Inec, has charged personnel to deepen interagency cooperation, sustain high morale and uphold discipline, stressing that vigilance and professionalism remain critical to mission success. The Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force Air Commodore Ehimen Ejodeme, in a statement said the CAS stated this during his inspection of operational platforms, maintenance facilities and mission support infrastructure at 303 Composite Group, Nigerian Air Force, Ilorin. He noted that air power gives the Nigerian Air Force speed, reach and precision, saying that when intelligently applied, it becomes a decisive force multiplier in counter-terrorism operations. He also commended personnel for their professionalism and combat preparedness, adding that operational readiness is not a one-time achievement, it is a sustained culture. He noted that the platforms must be serviceable, intelligence must be actionable, and personnel must remain mission-focused at all times, assuring the units of continued headquarters support in logistics, training, and welfare to further enhance operational efficiency and responsiveness. Now to Africa. Russian President Vladimir Putin has welcomed Madagascar's President Michael Rajoelina to the Kremlin, pledging to deepen bilateral ties across multiple sectors and collaborate on international platforms. In his welcoming remarks, Putin highlighted many interesting directed interactions between two nations, citing agriculture, geological exploration, energy, medicine, healthcare, and education as key areas of cooperation. He noted that Madagascan youth are already training in Russian higher education institutions, with many obtaining qualifications. On the foreign scene, President Donald Trump has said that he will direct United States agencies, including the Defense Department, to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files on aliens and extraterrestrial life. Trump made the declaration in a post on Truth Social after he reportedly accused Barack Obama of revealing classified information when the former president said aliens are real on a podcast last week. Still on the foreign scene, the U.S. state of New Mexico will reopen a criminal probe into a ranch once owned by Jeffrey Epstein, following allegations that surfaced in Justice Department files on the convicted sex offender. State prosecutors said they would seek full access to unredacted Epstein files relating to the Zorro Ranch held by federal investigators in Washington, D.C. They also pledged to work with Epstein Truth Commission set up this week in New Mexico. Reports say the state shelved its initial investigation into the ranch in 2019 upon request from federal prosecutors in New York. Epstein, who died in a Manhattan jail in 2019, faced no charges in New Mexico. Still to come in the news. Moroccan court sentences 19 Senegalese fans for vandalism during AFCON 2025 finals. Stay tuned for details of this and more in a moment. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. It's still the news at 12. We bring you to the concluding part. On our business news, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has warned that about 50% of low-income countries are in or approaching debt distress, requiring urgent action. Speaking at the ongoing technical group meeting of members of the group of 24 nations in Abuja, Edu also disclosed that debt servicing has become a major burden for many countries in the global south. He noted that total annual debt servicing payments by debtor countries in the global south was far above both inflows of overseas development assistance and foreign direct investments from the global north. According to him, about 25% of emerging and developing economies have lost access to international capital markets, making internally generated revenue more compelling than ever. Still in business, Nigerian currency, the Naira, has strengthened sharply in recent weeks, reaching one of its strongest levels in nearly 2 years, even as rising foreign portfolio inflows increase the risk of investor profit-taking later in the year. According to reports, the Naira has witnessed a steep appreciation in the official market, reaching one of the strongest levels of the past 2 years, which indicates improved liquidity conditions in the official foreign exchange window. However, the spread between the official and parallel markets persisted, with the parallel market initially trading at about a 5.7% premium before narrowing to roughly 3.2% following renewed FX interventions by the Central Bank of Nigeria. On our health news, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has urged the federal government to prioritize interventions critical to the survival of children. The UN agency said child survival remains central to its mandate, adding that it will continue to support interventions tailored towards improving outcomes for Nigerian children. A health specialist at UNICEF Nigeria, Dr. Fatima Seshi, made this known at the ongoing 4th National Oxygen Coordination Meeting organized by the Nigerian government and other development partners in Abuja. According to a statement released by the United Nations for Oxygen Coalition in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Health, says she, noted that untreated low levels of oxygen in children's blood can lead to life-threatening complications. She explained that UNICEF strongly advocates pediatric inclusion, as many severe childhood conditions depend on timely oxygen therapy. Still in health, experts in oncology have expressed concern over the rising burden of breast and cervical cancers in Africa, noting that over 70% of women present for diagnosis at advanced for diagnosis at advanced stages. The oncologists from South Africa, Ghana, Kenya and Nigeria raised the concern during an MSD virtual media roundtable themed Women's Cancer Continuum across Sub-Saharan Africa, turning insight into action. Speakers at the roundtable, Dr. Leslie Bikon of the Clinical Oncology Department, University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital Enugu, said cancer remained a crisis in Africa due to infrastructural gaps hindering diagnosis, treatment and palliation. She identified diagnostic and therapeutic concerns, noting that the few radiotherapy centers were largely concentrated in teaching hospitals located in urban centers, leaving a huge population in rural and peri-urban areas without access to cancer care. Now to the world of sports. A Moroccan court has sentenced 19 football fans to up to a year in prison on charges of vandalism stemming from a chaotic Africa Cup of Nations final between Morocco and Senegal that saw supporters try to storm the field. After the hearing, the presiding judge ruled that the fans were guilty of more than half a dozen charges, including damaging sporting facilities and committing violence during a sporting event. 11 people were sentenced to 1 year in prison and handed $550 fine. 4 were sentenced to 6 months and given $218 fine, while the remaining 4 were sentenced to 3 months and $130 fine. Still in sports, Manchester United are through to the quarter-finals of the Women's Champions League in the first season in the competition after beating Atletico Madrid. Marquinhos' side navigated a two-leg playoff and won 5-0 on aggregate, having secured a 3-0 lead in Spain last week. With the win, United has set up a quarter-final meeting with Bayern Munich. United join English rivals Arsenal and Chelsea, who play each other in the last 8, with the first legs taking place on the 24th and 25th of March 2026. On entertainment news, Eric Dane, the actor best known for his roles on Grey's Anatomy and Euphoria, has died less than a year after revealing he had amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Dane, who passed away at 53, starred as family patriarch Carl Jacobs on Heat's HBO teen drama show Euphoria. Before that, he was best known as Dr. Mark Sloan or Dr. Max Steamy on medical drama Grey's Anatomy. The California-born actor was diagnosed last year with ALS and spent the last few months raising awareness for the most common form of motor neuron disease. And that's all we have on this news bulletin. Do well to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTVLive.ng. This has been Spectrum Television News at 12. Thanks for watching. We are AMM. Good afternoon.